going into the planting season with mixed emotions. The macro state led the country.
Yeah, going into the planting season. A lot of rice farms are having to plant beans this year because no water.
Since farmers have
No water?
since
Yeah.
the beginning of the
The water table, we're like down a foot.
2020.
Locally,
Here in Arkansas.
they're looking forward to get their crop in the ground and get it out and reap the benefits.
Y'all are gonna start seeing fire seasons be a thing here, like they are in the Northwest, where it's gonna be like Bilberry for certain times because of the dryness. You'll probably gonna start to develop more.
Declining commodity
Well, they already, that's already happening.
to be
Because wildfires.
Yeah, still don't want to do that. They want to sell their crops at a reasonable price. Ongoing trade disputes, tariffs, and delays in federal funding have also impacted.
Y'all have been waiting for us.
You too, Jesse. Don't work too hard.
Is increasing fuel costs. Oxner says he's hopeful now that some farmers have restructured their debt. They'll be
You
able
have
to
one
make
more.
a profit.
Oh, yeah.
For free individual farms, it could be one farm with multiple entities on.
I don't want to more.
Well, thanks for asking. How about you? Oh, I heard you say you were tired.
All 33 are coming out of farm.
More than 24,000
Thank you.
crop farms in the state. Oxner says he's concerned about the future of Arkansas farming if things don't turn around.
In the farming industry, we continue to see it every year that age of the farmer continues to increase. And so are we going to have a generational gap somewhere? If the conditions of the industry do not improve, that's going to lead to more people that are on these family farms stepping away.
I'm Frida Ross, Arkansas News Service. Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
Support for KABF 88.3 FM comes from listeners and community partners. If you're a business owner or planning an event and would like information on how it can be announced on KABF, contact our office at 501-372-6119. That's 501-372-6119.
Hey, everybody, it's Larry Hickson. Let's talk about it on Monday, April 13th. Our special guest will be none other than County Clerk Terry Hollingsworth, one of the most innovative and progressive county clerks in the entire country. And she's going to update us on what it will take in order for us to continue a surge on voting in the county of Pulaski, right here on KABF FM 88.3. We are the voice of the people.
Hey, my name is Andrew Satina Krause for the Young Democratic Socialists at UALR, and we believe that Little Rock, the Search, should be a more livable and dignified city. We are currently facing a housing crisis, and after 3 years of organizing for renters, we've finally gotten the city to recognize housing as an emergency. This is only the first step. If we want Little Rock to live in dignity, then we are going to need a coalition of all the nonprofits and organizations that hold this city up. That's why on April 18th from 12 to 4 p.m., the Young Democratic Socialists of America at UALR will bring together community members and organizations to share information and discuss housing concerns and community engagement in Little Rock. Participants will have an opportunity to learn about local housing initiatives, community resources, and organizing efforts related to housing and neighborhood development. The event will take place at the UALR Donaghy Student Center, located on the campus of the University of Arkansas at Little Rock in the Ledbetter rooms from 12 to 4 p.m. It's about time Little Rock stops being the city locked away from progress. For additional information, please reach out to us on @UALRYBSA on Instagram.
Oh, wow. That's pretty neat.
What is?
Oh, the pictures of the island.
I told you they keep telling me I'm violating something.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, you heard the music is about 9 o'clock. It's Thursday, so you know what time it is. It's time for the workplace here on KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people community radio. I'm your host for the workplace, Toney Orr, and as always, my beautiful, vivacious, fierce, strong co-host is in the studio. How you doing, Denise?
Grand Rising people, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Good. Any announcements?
I do have some announcements right here. Oh, what I had them right here. Okay. Pathways to food security, localizing solutions. The American Community Gardening Association will hold the 2026 National Conference in Little Rock, Arkansas on May 5th. Wait, it's on May 5th? You have to register by May 5th. Oh, it's from June 4th through 7th. So they want you to get ready now because you got early bird. We passed early bird registration. But in case you need a reservation at the hotel, that's by May 5th. But the actual conference, it's a national conference, it's from June 4th through 7th this year. Family Fun Day is happening. The West Central Community Center, 8616 Colonel Glenn Road in Little Rock, 72204. That's happening on Saturday, April 18th, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I think that those are all of the announcements that I have for you on, no, one more. Arkansas Minority Health Commission's 9th Biennial Minority Health Summit. Friday, April 17th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the North Little Rock Event Center at 120 North Main Street in North Little Rock.
Okay. You know, it's excuse me, it's interesting that there was such a big push, not only around the country, but also in the state to get rid of anything that has the word minority. You know, whether y'all calling it DEI, call it whatever you want, but they didn't touch the Arkansas Minority Health. They kept it that way. But if I'm not mistaken, there was I don't want to say a lawsuit, but there was some discussion about them saying that uh, they had to change. Yeah, they had to change some of their policies because they felt like it only dealt with Black, especially Black women, Black men, Hispanics, and it excluded um, uh, white people in that, because I think there were some scholarships that would be offered through the Arkansas Minority Health for students of color, people of color who want to go to nursing school or different medical fields that they will give these scholarships to. And I think that was the big issue with that. And so it's
But they also might be playing the long game because they are about to be the minority and they don't want to be considered the minority. So let's not use the word minority because we don't want it to apply to us. Lo is on the line already, wishing us life, prosperity, and health. Minority. The system wants us Black folks to be childlike. That's what he says. It's the first comment. Minority. The system wants us Blacks to be childlike. Oh, and Lo lost his brother, if you don't mind holding holding sacred space for him.
let's have a moment to honor Lowe's brother. What's his name?
What's your brother name, Lo? I didn't even think to ask that. I was asking when the funeral is. I didn't even think to ask his name. What's his name? I'm sure he'll send it. Gerald.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just hold space for Gerald. Okay. And our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts go out to you, Lo, and all your family.
Yeah, and don't forget to send me the information about. I know your sister's making the arrangements right now, so as soon as you get them, keep us posted.
So for the past several days, I've been in different conversations with people about what's going on internationally, what's going on with our participation in this war in Iran, Israel, all these different things, and the conversations were were centered around how does it affect uh, the economy that we're dealing with. How does it affect wages for people? Because as prices go up, as gas prices go up, as food prices go up, as so many things go up, you still find wages are still stagnant or at the same. A lot of companies aren't moving to raise wages because at the end of the day, they're looking at their bottom line. So we raise wages and we have to pay more for goods coming in. We have to pay more for oil, especially companies that like trucking firms, like farmers who have to have this fuel. And so in these sort of settings, the one question I've asked, how do you feel about this? Do you do you, are you worried? Are you concerned? Or do you just not care? I met a lot of people saying, man, I could care less. I don't care what they do. It doesn't bother me. As long as I can move around, I may have to pay higher prices, but as long as I can move around, I don't care. There were some people that I talked to who were like, well, I'm very concerned. Are we becoming a military power? Are we trying to dominate the world? Are we trying to control what's going on in other countries? And then there were some people who like, yeah, we might have to suffer a little bit right now, but this administration is doing what it's supposed to do to keep us safe. And so with all these different opinions, all these different thoughts, all these different ideas of what's going on, I just wanted to ask you guys to listen on what do you feel about all this? Or how do you look at all this? And how do how is it affecting you overall? It's a lot of I think I think we are in a very stressful place for most people because they're just trying to figure it out because they really don't know what's going on. A lot of times the information you get is not accurate in a lot of ways. Is the truth is being uh, stretched or just dismissed. You know, it's just a lot of different. It's just a lot of different. It's a lot of things going on, and just want to know how is it affecting you? How do you look at it? What do you think about it? And more importantly, what is something you think that we can do about it? So phone lines are open for those who want to call in, have a comment, want to talk about it. I know social media is open for comment. So um, just want to hear your take on it. What do you think, Tiffany?
So here's Lo. Let me tell you what he thinks. Trump ain't messing with North Korea since he is so big on regime change. So Trump ain't messing with North Korea since he's so big on regime change. That's what Lo says. Dr. Karama Neal and I just had this conversation over I love having neighbors you can just talk to over the fence. We standing at the fence talking like my mom's dad used to do when Medgar Evers was alive. But what we talked about was the importance of recognizing where we hold power, because both of us, and let me just speak for myself right now, but both of us, it sounded like, but we really understand. I understand that in this particular moment, with this particular presidential administration, there is nothing that we can do to stop them. Like we don't have the power to stop them. So they're going to do what they do. And my concern is how long is it going to take us to undo all of what they're doing right now. But where are the places that you do have power? We talked about the Divine Nine. Those of us who are members of fraternities and sororities, we have power there. Those of us who are members of these local chapters like the NAACP, the Urban League, or what's the Jack and Jill, those kinds of places. Like where is it that we do have power? How do we mobilize in those spaces so that we can affect change for our community, because trying to fight the government right now is not working.
Yeah, and one of the conversations that I had with this, in fact, it was yesterday morning, right at the Pat Ward show, our insurance inspector for the building had had stopped by. He had to do his regular inspection, and afterwards we had this long conversation. And one thing he mentioned, he said that what a lot of people don't look at, and we talk about this from time to time, Denise, is that if you want to see what's really going on, sometimes you have to follow the money. And he started talking about that there was no reason for this war with Iran. But if you follow the money, and he mentioned something that the president said in a speech I think it was last week or over the weekend, where he said, we don't have money for Medicaid, we don't have money for Medicare, we don't have money for that because we have to pay for this war. So when you start looking at what this administration is doing, this whole administration is profiting and making money. You know, just making money any way they can. They're stealing and basically pillaging, every aspect of the treasury to get, to make this money. You are right in one way, Denise. When all of this said and done, the damage is going to be the decades and maybe a couple of generations to recover from all of this. And as we were talking, he said that the people that are going to suffer the most are the people coming behind us, because they're going to have to deal with it. They're going to have to figure out a way, how do we recoup what has been lost. And the people that's going to suffer the most are going to be Black and brown people, because they may not have the full resources to adequately recoup, reinvest, or whatever to have sustainability in the future. And I think that's one of the things that has to be discussed, has to be talked about, is this concerted effort to, as you said, Denise, to reinvigorate the power class in this country. And the way you do it, one of the ways you do it, if you can take away all the resources that people need and only leave it for a few people, then that's how you can actually redo what's happening. Call you on there.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Maybe you all know more about this than I do. The lady called, I think her name was, we call her Queen Moore or something, born in 1800, that worked with Martha Johnson all the way up to the 90s, reparation and things. Maybe y'all can elaborate about that. But my thing here, brother, is just we have a thing that we look at one another with envy and jealousy. We need to be looking at our bench and what we have and our potential that we can overcome. Don't be talking about we can't do nothing about nothing. You got all the power, we can do it. We can bring righteousness if we really want to, what I'm saying. But don't every time you look at somebody with, he got this and they ain't got it, you denying what God gave you, saying what I got ain't good enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. So let me be frank. I think I kind of confused. I was watching the flasher, and my mind was trying to get the phrase out. So when I said because the power structure now is trying to reinvent what was, and when I say reinvent what was, you have to go back to the inception of this country, where there was a white majority, a white power structure. That white power structure, in a way, is starting to diminish, because Black and brown people or people of other ethnic groups are now becoming the majority and white people becoming the minority. So how do you keep that structure in place? You do it by taking away resources, social services. You take away the ability of the people at the bottom to invest, gain wealth, gain power. And what you see happening right now is power is being shifted back to what it originally was, that only a certain percentage of people, which would, in the case of this country, that certain percentage of people with the resource, with the power, are just, are white. So he who controls the resources, he that control, or the people that control the resources, the people that control the finances, the people that controls the policy, the people that control the laws, they're the ones that are going to be able to dictate what goes on within that country. And that shift, and I know I said when I used the word recruit, I'm talking about this power structure is trying to recoup what it originally had in the stranglehold on what they had.
So let me get this message from Lo, and then I want to respond to the caller, and then I have something to say. Okay, so Lo says Trump did not have the money to go to war with Iran, but he did it anyway. He didn't have the money to go, but he did it anyway. Do you want to respond?
Yeah, but he did. He did. And the reason he was able to, because that's what I mean about this shit. We know, and like I said, right now, you can really take the Constitution and just throw it out the window because they're not going by it. But Congress had the power. Congress has always had the power to authorize money. As they said, Congress holds the purse. So Congress could have said, no, we're not going to author it, because he was supposed to go to Congress to ask. So the money that he's using, remember, he shifted all types of money around from Department of Education, from all these different places that was already authorized by Congress. He bypassed Congress and said, I don't care what y'all did, I'm putting this money over in defense. There's a story that Pete Hespeth, before this war started, was trying to buy war bonds. And they were like, why are you trying to buy these? You're Department of Defense, and you're trying to buy war bonds. So that was an indication that this was coming. So when you say he doesn't have the money, he doesn't have to have the physical money in his pocket, but he controls the power, which controls the money.
And so Lo responds to you by saying, yes, Congress is the one who holds the purse, but they are scared. And so, according to the record, Congress has not yet voted to give Trump the opportunity to go to war with Iran. And so this to me speaks to what the caller was saying. So the caller is saying we have the power to affect change. The people hold the power. And that is true. I'm not arguing with that. My concern is how you wield your power, because you're trying to fight Trump. You don't have no power fighting him. Congress don't even have no power fighting him. So you think you got power fighting him? No, but we do have power in certain places if we would gather together, get ourselves together, have a plan, strategize, use tactics, work together, collaborate, all of those things, then the power will continue to rest with the people. That's what the Black Panthers say, all power to the people. That's where the power lies, with us. But we are not wielding our power in the way that would be effective. That's the point that I'm trying to make. And so then let me also respond to you. You asked for some information about the Queen Mother. So I want to also give you some of that. I'll do that after this call.
Call you there.
Tony,
Yes.
Bob Grissom. Hey,
Bob.
I don't have I don't want to chime in, but I want you to call me off air. I want to give you an update on my cancer.
Okay.
Can you write this number down?
Oh, sure.
Tony?
I got it. Just tell them to say the number.
So what's the number, Bob?
501 514-4793.
Okay,
I got a lot to share. Call me later, okay?
okay,
Thanks, buddy. Bye-bye.
no problem.
Okay, so also in response to the caller about Queen Mother, Queen Mother Audley Moore was born in 1898 and she transitioned, her energy shifted in 1997. And she was a prominent Black nationalist, reparations leader, and activist who was profoundly influenced by Marcus Garvey after hearing him speak in 1920. She became a dedicated member of Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association, investing in his Black Star Line and adopting his principles of self-sufficiency, African liberation, and Black pride to fuel her future activism. And she's also the one who, in the spirit of Marcus Garvey, she founded the Universal Association of Ethiopian Women and initiated the modern reparations movement. So there's more about it, but I just wanted to give you a little bit.
Okay. And you're right, Denise. You have to figure out where you can wield power. You know, I think one of the things that happens so many times is that as these groups come together to try to wield their power, I think a lot of times there's not a clear understanding of what you are fighting for. What are you fighting to do? What are you trying to change? And I think that becomes the number one thing. You have to figure out what are you doing and what are you trying to accomplish. And it kind of goes back to the question that so many people ask this administration about this war. So what is your end game? What is it that you are trying to do, you know, or what is it trying to accomplish? And it seems like nobody can give a clear answer of what you're trying to do. And I think when groups come together to wield their power, they have to have, like you said, a plan, and it has to be an end game. What is it? And I think with so many things, Preston, like I said, all these conversations over the past several days, you know, it was, you know, so many different things, you know, whether it's economics, whether, like I said, oil prices, food prices, wages, you know, and it was so hard to, you know, to, in these conversations, to try to get people to narrow down, say, okay, if this is what needs to be done, let's focus on getting this done. And I think that's the distraction game, because the more you are bombarded with, the harder it is to figure out what's the number one thing you need to do.
Yeah, just want to again, I was thinking about Dr. Neal, and I remember she posted this on her Facebook one time. She reminds us that the Latin motto for Arkansas is Regnat Populus. Now, I don't know how you say it in Latin, which means the people rule. And so we have the opportunity, especially in Arkansas, because we're one of maybe 15, 16 states, I think, 13 states that can put something on the ballot, that we still have the power to put something on the ballot. And I just think that sometimes we forget that because of everything that's going on. We think we don't have any power. We do have power. We just got to figure out how to use it, where it lies, and how to use it. And so what happens so this is how I feel about what you just said, when it's so much going on. Well, what all of the trauma that we are experiencing through this presidential administration is hitting different people in different areas of their lives. And so some people are more concerned about economics than they are healthcare. Some people are more concerned about healthcare than they are economics. Some people are more concerned about housing. Some people are more concerned about education. And so it's hard for us to collaborate because we cannot focus on one single issue, because everybody's got a different issue, but we don't have enough power to focus on everybody's issue. And so the conversation gets stalled because there's a paralysis of analysis, right?
I think you're right, because, you know, when you look at this administration, and we talked about this during the last presidential election, is that what a lot of people do, they'll focus on that one thing that affects them and be blind to everything else. So one of the things that people that helped get this president elected was, he was talking about the price of eggs. He was talking about the economy, and that's what people focused on. That's what a lot of people focused on, you know. the economy. But they didn't focus on, or they were so focused on the economy that they didn't see on the peripheral, or their vision on the peripheral to see that, hey, this this person wants to roll back DEI. This person wants to militarize the army. Want to militarize, want to weaponize the Department of Justice. Want to take away education. It did to a lot of people. I don't care about that. I just care about the economy. And what happens when you don't look at all, if you don't look at the whole picture, the big picture, and you just focus on one part of the picture, then all of a sudden when the picture becomes revealed, you're like, oh, I didn't see that. Is it that you didn't see it, or that you weren't concerned about it because all you were focused on is this one part of the picture?
Well, I think it's a both and, but here's what Lowe says. Not only what you said, Ms. Denise, but Arkansas does not have any legislation that allows for a recall vote of federally elected officials. Arkansas does not have any legislation that allows for a recall vote of federally elected officials. I'm not sure that people don't see it. For me, it feels like what happened that time that somebody sent me the video about Franz Fanon. And I was like, I ain't never heard of this man before. I've never seen this before. And then we started talking about the wretched of the earth, like this book. We like, where did this book come from? I didn't know. So sometimes I feel like it's not that we are not paying attention, that we just we don't have access to all of the information. And so we don't know what we don't know until we in the thick of things and say, oh my goodness, I didn't know that. And I also think that's by design, because even when we think about our own legislature here in Arkansas, there are so many bills that they passed that they have not even read. You have not even read through this entire bill. You have not even had all the discussions. You have not even done, but yet you're going to vote yes on it. So it's not that we are not paying attention. Now, sometimes we are not paying attention, but not all the time. It's just we don't have the information.
Yeah, and I think another thing is that I think sometimes we have to recognize the okie doke, the game, the get over, so to speak. And I think about last week, the Arkansas Supreme Court overturned a law or a policy that was created during the last election cycle. Get Loud Arkansas and Arkansas Values were actually signing people up on electronic signature for voter registration. They came and said that no, this was illegal. So the Attorney General of Arkansas, Tim Griffin, said no, this is acceptable. This is okay. So the Secretary of State immediately called the Election Commission. They had a meeting, and they said that no, you can't do this. It was illegal. So there was a lawsuit filed. Now, in reality, Arkansas has never had it. I mean, it's written within their constitution that yes, you can use that signature. You use it for driver's license. You use it for all other legal matters, and it's acceptable. To me, once this lawsuit started going down the line, I believe that they knew. Once it got to the Arkansas Supreme Court, the Supreme Court said, yes, they can use this electronic signature. You don't need a wet signature. But by the time they did it, the election was over. So it's a lot of times, even with this presidential administration, it's a lot of things he does, a lot of executive orders he does. But he knows, I'm not going to win this. I know it's going to be overturned. But in this moment, I'm going to take advantage of it. In this moment, until they stop me, I'm going to do as much damage. I'm going to get as much money. I'm going to do what I can in this moment. And I think that sometimes that's something we have to look at sometimes. I think we get so focused on what is what is done, and we don't look at, hold up, this ain't nothing but game. And if you can recognize the game, that it's a game recognized game. When you can recognize the game, Then you can say, oh, is this the game you want to play? Now, let's kind of out that game. When you talk about where you wield the power, then you can say, hey, right now, we have the power to game the game, so to speak.
Well, I don't agree that we should be looking to recognize the game so that we can have a counterattack to the game. Because in my opinion, this whole country is the game. So everything that this country does is the okie doke. Everything that this country does is part of a matrix. Everything is a lie. Everything is fruit of a poisonous tree that is called racism and the forcible removal of the native First Nation people, all of that. So everything that we do is rooted in that. So the whole thing is a game. And so if we could understand that instead of thinking that we doing some, oh, now I'm doing some, girl, look at me, I done game the game. No, you ain't. Just because you got a job don't mean you done game the game. We have to fight this country as a people we have to overthrow this whole thing and start again.
Call young man.
Yeah.
We here, caller.
Yes, that's you absolutely right in my thing. If you're a person, you think you're free, but you don't know you're still locked in a system. It's not about money, it's about controlling the energy, keeping your energy negative to support this wicked stuff. We have to change our thinking. And sometimes changing your thinking is uncomfortable because you've been taught a certain way. Somebody come along telling you what's really going on, you may not want to hear that because it don't fit with what all you already know. We got to be really, really retarded. I mean, taught profiles. And we just missing too many things. And this they got plenty of money. They got all the money. Hell, they print money. I think don't run out of money. It's about control. We don't look at ourselves as being currency. We are energy. We produce energy. Now, how do you want your energy to leave out your body going out? Do you want it to be for freedom, or do you want it to stay enslaved? The way they keep us going around and around, and all these things are designed. These people have this is design stuff. It's not no accident. Hey,
And just want to just say this for those of us thinking about when the caller says that we need to recognize that we are currency. And so most of the time when people think about currency, they think about money. And so when you hear the caller say, we are currency, like, what? But if we just look up just the denotation of the word, just based on the superficial definition of the word, currency is something that is used as a medium of exchange. And so when the caller says we are currency, that's what's happening in the war. You're using our bodies to exchange whatever this is. You're trying to, this money from country to country, whatever you're doing, money or whatever it is, you use our bodies for that. That's what you did with those of us who were enslaved. You used our bodies as currency. That's what you were using to exchange our labor for your wealth. So when the caller says we are being used as currency, our bodies are the focal point for making sure that this country stays alive. And it always has been, and it continues to be. That's why we have to start again.
Yeah, people don't realize the number one commodity that is exchanged and used in this world is human trafficking. And when I say human trafficking, I know a lot of people look at that as that you're taking people and moving them or kidnapping them, but it's broader. It's broader. And sometimes we don't look at it in that way because a lot of people think, well, I'm free, I can move around, I can do this, I can do that. But in reality, the system is designed to move you where you need to be so they can the system wants to maximize the profit off of you. Whether, like the caller said, whether it's your energy, whether it's your work, whatever it is, the system is designed to maximize the profit off of you. And so sometimes we don't look at it like that. I think one of the conversations that that I had that I really enjoyed was talking to someone, and it reminded me of Alan Buzak from South Africa. He said when he was here a couple of years ago, one of the things he said was that you have to untrain the trained mind. Did I say?
He said that, and he also said you have to unlearn and you have to
Yeah.
unremember.
Yeah. And so that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do, because one of the problems is, just in my opinion, is we're so stuck in a lot of traditions, a lot of religion, a lot of things. It's so hard for us to move past it and start to truly think, past that, that they said to think outside the box, so that, because once you get out the box, you see things in a whole different light. It took me some years to get out the box to see something. I'll be honest with you, I'm still in the box on a lot of things, but a lot of things are out the box, and I see it differently. That's what I love about KABF community radio, because the people call in with so many different opinions, so many different ideas, so many different thoughts, so many different things, that if you take the time to think about it, you're like, you know what, that kind of makes sense. Let me look at it. It may not change my mind, but it gives me the opportunity to look at it in a different light. And I think that's one of the things that happens, is that when you bring something to somebody and their mind refuses to listen to it, or even consider it, or even think about it, now you won't come out the box. Well, the system is designed to keep you in the box. The system is designed to keep you in a controllable space. If I can control you in this space, then I can continue to take advantage of you. I can continue to oppress you. I can continue to do what I need to do to you. It's only when you come out the box. And that's the fear. That's the fear of the system. Is once you come out the box and now you free your mind, now you can recognize what is happening. And now you can start coming up with a plan to do something about what's happening. And I think that's one of the things that has to happen, is so many of us have to start rethinking and unlearning and unmemoraying some things that we can get out the box and actually become effective in trying to change something.
So Lois responding to you about the commodity piece and says, heck, the first stock traded on Wall Street market was Black folks. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
The first stock traded on Wall Street was Black folks. Well, I think that, so here's what I think. I think that, yes, we have to be open to new information and all of that. But the question becomes, how do you get a person's mind to open? And sometimes I know I've been guilty of that, of trying to figure out how to get the person's mind to open so that I can help them, so I can disseminate some information, so I can educate them and all that. But what I've come to realize is, going back to the ping pong theory, is that if I have information for you, I'm going to give you the information whether you're listening to me or not. Because one thing that you cannot do is that you cannot unhear what I said. And so even though you might not be ready right now to receive it, one of these old mornings, and it won't be very long, it's going to pop up in your mind. You're going to be like, wait a minute. And so what I think happens to us is that some of us have become known as people who don't have an open mind. People know us as having a closed mind. So we don't even bother to give you the information. And so if we don't even bother to give you the information, it's never going to pop up in your mind because you don't have access to it. So so now I don't worry about whether or not you're ready. Now, I'm not going to say anything to make you mad. I ain't trying to fight, but I'm saying just in conversation. It doesn't matter to me whether or not you have an open mind. What matters to me is that we are having an honest and open discussion about whatever's on the table. Now, what you do with it when you leave, that's up to you. But I believe that energy is going to make it pop up when it's necessary.
Yeah. And so sometimes all you can do is plant the seed, and hope that it grows in the minds of people. Going back to another part of of the system. It's that if you can change or you can reframe the young, to me, one of the parts of genocide to me is not just trying to kill people, but if you can kill their minds, if you can get them to not look at themselves in a certain way, but look at themselves in a way that the system wants. And I think it goes back, and I've had conversations with Denise about this off, over the years, is that what I call living in the projects. I'm just gonna say living in the hood and living in the suburbs. I had relatives who started out in the projects. They got, they got nice jobs or they got jobs, and all of a sudden they moved out to the suburbs. Basically said, I'm moving to a better life. And once they moved out to so-called a better life, their whole mindset started to change because now they felt like, oh, I'm respected. I'm treated a certain way. I can go to different schools. Like some of my kids, different schools. This and different things. But in reality, when they would go to certain places or they would go to certain areas, they were constantly reminded that you still Black. No matter what you got, no matter how you see yourself, the system still sees you for what the system says you are.
Yeah, but I think that's the prop. So a lot of times in this country, what we always have a tendency to do is that we want to victimize the people who are poor. So we want to say poor people not doing this, you ain't raising your children, you want to be on the system, all that. We constantly force all of our attention towards people who are living in poverty and saying that it's because you're not doing X, Y, and Z, which is why some of this stuff is happening. But for me, it's y'all parents who have moved out to the suburbs, because when that shift that happens in your mind, yes, you think you're coming at it from the system's perspective, but I'm coming at it from what's happening in your home. So because you've made this shift in your mind, the way that you are rearing your children is that you're rearing them to be, well, I want them to have everything I didn't have. I don't want them to work for that. And so you're not teaching them responsibility. You're not holding them accountable. You're not doing any of those things. And then you're going to unleash them on the world to the rest of us. And then we're not going to be able to do anything with them because by the time we get them, it's too late. And so that mind shift governs how you parent. And I don't think y'all are realizing that.
Caller, you on the air.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
As far as the system, I think the whole thing boils down to the system. Until you are able to change the system, things are going to go as they are. You can elect who you want to elect. They still have to go by certain criteria, So if you have elected officials that are willing to bend and go against the system and change it, and then we got somewhere to go. Then we can move forward. But you have the 1% with all the money, the autocracy, the oligarchy that actually run this country. They're not standing for that right now. So that's what I'm looking at. Until the system is changed, and then we got an uphill battle. But
I agree with the caller 100%, and there are ways that we can change the system. What can we do? Get rid of the electoral college. What else can we do? Get money out of politics, all these lobbyists. What else can we do? We have to give people a test. If you want to run for office, if you can't pass the test, then you can't run because you don't have the competence to be a leader. It's like there are things that we can put in place. And again, that is where we can wield our power as citizens, because we have the right in Arkansas to put that kind of stuff on the ballot. And that would change things, because I'm 100% in agreement with him. That's why I said at the beginning, you ain't got no power right now. It's nothing you can do right now with this presidential administration, with this country, the way it's being run. But we can change things. The electoral college, I feel like that's number one.
Yeah, I agree with you. And going back to the Arkansas being one of 13 states can actually have citizen democracy, I know that's not the word they use, where citizens have the right to put issues on the ballot. And so the one thing that the system does, the system adapts every moment to different changes. And it adjusts to those changes. So a couple of years ago, when it really started to happen was when when the citizens put on the ballot the minimum wage change. But they wanted the minimum wage to go up. They got it on the ballot. Uh, it was, I think 67%. It won by 67%. I think 67% of people said, yes, we need this increase in the minimum wage. The legislators came back and said, hold up. Okay, even though the people voted on this, I think we need to tweak it. And and it went to court, said, no, you can't touch this. You can't touch this. So what did the system do?
Change the law.
The system started putting in place, these ballot initiatives that they put on, and they tried to frame it like, oh, this is bad, and they start coming up with all these new rules. So now to sign a petition, not only do the petition has to be worded a certain way, the people getting the petition, they have to make sure they show people an ID. They have to make sure that the people who sign have an ID. They got to make sure that you let them know that signing this is a felony or a misdemeanor, something like that. And then if you sign it and they come back and say, hey, you're not a registered voter, or your name has been purged off the voter rolls, or something is wrong with your name, or your signature doesn't look, they can say, oh, you signed this falsely, and now we're going to charge you. And the person who got your signature, we can charge them. So they put these things in place, not so much. They're not really trying to catch anybody. What they're trying to do is scare you, into not signing or not doing it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's one of the tactics, like when they said we're going to put ICE agents, come November, we're going to have ICE agents at polling places, to scare you so that you won't go. That's the biggest part of voter suppression that they're doing. Not so much to stop you, but to discourage you.
So here's where I think that the last caller, this is the second part of the comment that he made. So the first part is like, look, we got to do something about the system, because the way the system is now, we need to get rid of it. Yes. And so we need to get rid of the electoral college, because that will bring in democracy, one person, one vote. But also here in this particular conversation, your response is where we talk about all roads leading to the ballot box. Because if you change the kind of people that you vote for, you change the kind of policies that are being written, and that the kind of measures that get on the ballot and all of that. So we've got people who do not care about people that have been voted into place, so they have that power. But when there's an upturn, when there's an upheaval of this system, then we'll be voting in different people, and we don't have to deal with all of that, because they would not be interested in discouraging us. That would not be their goal at all.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a lot of things that need to be changed. It's a lot of things that need to be taken out or revamped. Just
all of it.
Yeah, and one of the biggest ones, and I agree with you, Denise. I don't know why I should have to pay you to represent me. If you want to run for office and represent me, now, once you get in office, yes, you should get a stipend. You should get, your travel or whatever. But why, the minute they came out with the law that said a corporation is a person, and I can put as much money into a campaign as I want to. Now, basically, you have started to buy people. they need to get rid of all lobbyist money. They need to get rid of all these PAC money. They need to get rid of all these different entities that fund these political campaigns. They need to get rid of all of them. If you're going to run for office, then run for office. You know, because right now, trying to get it you're just a regular citizen, just a working person who decides that, hey, I want to run for office. If you're not in that million, I don't want to say if you're not in that millionaire class,
It just takes a lot of money regardless of the level.
it just takes a lot of money. And the one thing about it, you may go in broke, but you will come out with your pockets full. Calling you on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Sister Denise, Brother Toney, to you listen, all those on the way.
Hey, Ezekiel.
I just want to ask, how do you get rid of Citizens United?
It's a Supreme Court decision. So the Supreme Court would have to reverse that decision.
So that means we need to get to move, make a campaign and try to get it done. That's the way it would get done.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's the reason they're able to do exactly what they want to do with the finances. Oh, and one more thing, you went back in the past to mention the Queen Mother, back during the Garvey, when he was, with his campaign, etc. There was a slave named Solomon. And when he died, they just put him interned as Solomon Freeman. And he was reported to have been the smartest slave ever. And he's archived in the Smithsonian, even the archives of Howard University, etc. But no one ever knows about it, but no one ever hears about it. And of course, they would never teach about anyone who was the smartest person around, even though he was a slave. His name was Solomon, and they just put him in the ground as Solomon Freeman. With that, I'll get out there.
You know, and I'm glad it's Ezekiel who said it, because I know he'll call me offline if he has something to say about what I'm about to say. But I also feel like part of what this country does is also mess with our language, which also factors into how we think about things. And so when Ezekiel called our ancestor Solomon a slave, I thought about it, because that's what they want us to think, right? That you're nothing but a slave. You come from slaves. You were always going to be slave. But we were enslaved. And when you say the word enslaved, that means somebody did this to me. I was not created for this. I was not raised for this. I'm not built for this. Somebody did that to me. And so I feel like it's important for us to say that so that you can recognize the harm that was caused by the person who put you in that situation. The other word that bothers me is the word kid, K-I-D. When I grew up, that word means, and it still means, a young goat. So why do you all call your children kids? Because now when you say, well, kid, that's for some people, that's a whole different, you're thinking about them as, stuff you got to control them, you got to help, you got to do everything for them because they just young, they don't have. No, but these are children that are going to one day grow up to be adults. That's a different mindset. So we just take on everything this country throws at us, and we don't realize how it affects the way we see things, because the country is not going to give you time to think. The country not going to give you time to think. You work. You ain't got time to think. So you're just going along to get along.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And sometimes it's so difficult, like I said, to get people out of the box so they can change not only their vision, but also change the language, change a lot of things about themselves. The last thing I want to say, because we run out of time, but I want to say this real quick. And you mentioned this when you talk about slave and enslavement. Last week, I heard the oral arguments, listened to the oral arguments about the 14th Amendment. And one of the things that the administration said was that the 14th Amendment was about slaves becoming citizens. And they keep talking about this one part of the 14th Amendment, this jurisdiction, this domicile thing. The vice president said that if you can't trace your heritage in this country to the grave, what he said, if you can't take it all the way back to the original person or the original ancestry that actually came here or whatever, then basically you're illegal. You know, my thing is this. When you hear that, if you're not listening closely, and I think that's what you were saying, Denise, if you're not really listening to the language and everything, because what they're saying is it really hinders them too. Because they want to really hear everybody, you know, that's here came here outside of the First Nation people. And to be honest with you, Black people were the original undocumented immigrants.
Immigrants.
Well,
Well,
But
my counter argument to that would be this. So how is that possible when, especially when you're thinking about those of us who are enslaved, have been enslaved? How, you made it so that there's no record. You made it so that you changed people's names. You made it so that you separated families. You made it so that you removed children from. So now you're gonna tell us to go find the record? Get out of here.
yeah, and that's what I mean when I say there's no documentation.
But this is why we need diversity. Because see, there's nobody in these rooms that will raise these kinds of issues. Because of the people that are having these conversations, they all look alike. They got the same. Well, even if they don't look alike, they got the same goal in mind. Diversity says you need to bring a different voice in here so somebody can raise up and say, "Wait a minute, we ain't doing this. This is crazy."
You're right. You're right. Hey, I want to thank everybody for calling in today. I want to thank everybody on commenting on social media. Like I said, our condolences to you and your family on the loss of your brother. And tune in next week. Tune in Tuesday for Community Voices. Tune in Thursday for the workplace. Enjoy the rest of your day. Appreciate you being here. See you.